In this video, I'm going to show you exactly the process of setting up Google Analytics 4's enhanced e-commerce tracking on your WooCommerce store using Google Tag Manager containers. This will help you understand your customers better, optimize your marketing strategies, and make decisions that are based on actual data. Many of you struggles with analytics setups that end up being ineffective, confusing, or simply non-functional. Such configurations often lead to data that is misunderstood, misused, or overlooked. But today, I'm going to change that. I will guide you through a clear, structured process of ensuring that your integration with your Google Tag Manager container and your website is flawless and that you can use that data for your business growth. I'm going to focus on practicality and actionability, so you won't end up with just another setup that you're never going to use again. What I am offering is a straightforward, user-friendly process of configuring GA4 on your website. Perhaps you have tried setting up Google Analytics in the past and found yourself into a maze of confusing options. Or maybe you are in the first time and trying to understand how the analytics work on your website. But don't worry, I am here. In this video, we will start with the basic of how to install Google Tag Manager container on your website. We are also going to see what kind of plugins you need and how we are going to configure those plugins on your WooCommerce store so we can track the DataLayer events. The process of configuring Google Analytics 4 on your WooCommerce store is quite lengthy. Therefore, this whole thing has been divided into a playlist. And you can find all the videos in the description below. This video has been divided into 4 different sections. In the first section of the video, we are going to configure the plugin that is essential to track all of the events such as view item, add to cart, purchase on our WooCommerce stores. Once we have configured the plugin, then we are going to move to the next step of adding Google Tag Manager container on our WooCommerce store. After doing that, we can move over to the third section of the video where we are going to configure Google Analytics 4 configuration tag on our website. Once we have configured the configuration tag, then we can move to the final part, that is testing. Therefore, this video is the essential one. You cannot miss this video, otherwise all the other videos in this playlist are not going to make any sense. On the backend of my website, I have already configured WooCommerce and I have already added the products. These are some dummy products that I have added for the testing purposes only. To install the plugin, let's just go to the plugin section and click on add new plugin. This will take us to the page where we can add different plugins. Plugins are more like boosting functionalities of our WooCommerce stores. They are very similar to how apps works in Shopify. They're just similar thing for PHP WordPress. So let's search for the plugin that we need. We are going to install GTM for WP plugin, which is a very famous plugin for creating data layer for WooCommerce stores. Once you're on this page, you can find the plugin named GTM for WP. Let's click on install on this plugin and this will start the installation process of the plugin to our WooCommerce store. Once the plugin installation has been completed, you can click on activate button to activate the plugin. Great, now the plugin has been activated and we can move to the next section of configuration of this plugin. So let's go to the settings tab to see what kind of settings do we have in this plugin and what kind of controls we can add on our Google Tag Manager container. The first thing is the general basics tab, where we have the Google Tag Manager container ID. Do we want to add the container code directly through this plugin, or do we want to add the code directly on the PHP theme file? We can go about both the options. We can also add the Google Tag Manager container ID through this plugin, or we can add that directly to the theme.php file. The theme.php file can be found under theme, appearances, and editor. For me, the theme has its own setting editor. However, if you are working with a custom built theme, then you will probably be facing with the function of theme.php files. Let's just go back to the plugin and see what kind of other settings we have. Once we have added the Google Tag Manager container, which we will do that in a few minutes, let's just check the basic settings. If you are working with a blog website or more like a lead generation website, which we are going to cover in the future videos, not in this one because this is specifically for e-commerce tracking, we can use these kind of settings to track the blog's performance. We can also track search on this website. However, these are all not integrated with this one. What we are looking for is WooCommerce settings. You can find the WooCommerce settings under the integration tab and WooCommerce. This is where we can add all of the events that are really necessary for the e-commerce tracking, such as view item, add to cart, purchase, and configure all kind of different settings, whether we want to add text to the purchase event, whether we want to add subtotals or grand totals and things like that. Since we want to track e-commerce tracking, we are going to check the button which says track enhanced e-commerce tracking. The impression event is basically view item list event. You can have up to 200 events in that, but I don't really like it because it adds way too many items in the data layer and then the API request call just becomes too big for the server. So I don't really like to do that. I usually like to have my cart data in the data layer so I can always access any kind of information that I need. I also like to have the customer data in the data layer. So when we are working with Facebook pixel or server-side tracking, I can actually get this information such as user details, such as email address, phone number, and send it back to the server for enhanced e-commerce tracking. But for GA4, this is really not necessary, but it is still a good setting to have turned on. You can exclude the data. However, I usually like to keep rest of the settings as they are. Just enable the enhanced e-commerce tracking and the impression plugins to 10. Once we have done that, you can hit save changes and this will add the plugin on our store. However, now we need to make sure that our Google Tag Manager container is also present on the website, because if the Google Tag Manager container is not on the WooCommerce store, nothing is going to work. So let's just take 1 minute to discuss what exactly is Google Tag Manager. Since we are working with a WooCommerce website and we have multiple ads platforms, so we might end up working with Google Ads, Facebook Ads, and any other ad platforms such as TikTok, and we might want to track analytics platform on Triple Whale or things like that. So each of these websites wants to add their tracking code snippets, which help these platforms track what user activities, maybe e-commerce events or page view events. But they cannot track all of the events without having the access of all the pages on the website. And adding the code on all the pages on the website can be really messy, because you might have to add 10 different codes everywhere on the page. And now if you want to change your Google Ads account, or if you want to change your analytics account, you have to go to all the pages of your website and remove the codes. Google Tag Manager makes it really easier for us. It just as the name suggests, is basically a manager. It manages all of the different tags from Facebook Pixel, Google Analytics, custom build tag, and anything that we want to add on all the pages of the website, or even on the specific pages of the website. We can do that directly using Google Tag Manager. Without the help of the developer, we can make all the changes that we want. So we are going to add the Google Tag Manager container on our WooCommerce website, and then we are going to proceed with the next step. So let's just go to the new tab and open Google Tag Manager. You can do a quick search about it if you have not created a container already. I think I have created multiple containers, so I might already have one. But for this video, let's just create a new demo container from the start. But if you already have one container, you can just use that. I'm going to click on create container. And for this one, let's just name it demo for WooCommerce. And let's name the website. I don't remember what the name of the website is. It's demo@shahzadalihasan.com. So let's rename it with this. Also, one more thing, you can use Google Tag Manager container for websites, server-side tracking, Android devices, Apple iOS devices. But this one is for web. It does not really mean that if the user is coming from mobile application, they won't be get tracked. As long as the user is using the browser application, this will work. So we are going to use the web and just agree to the terms and condition, because we don't really have a choice right there. Perfect. Now the container has been created. If we want to use the tracking script directly in the theme.php file, we might have to copy and paste the whole code. But since we are using the plugin and you are following along and you are also using the plugin, so let's just copy the ID that we have right here and go back to the plugin and paste the ID right here. We can click on turn on the container and hit save. Just by doing that, this should have properly added the Google Tag Manager container on all the pages of our WooCommerce store. Let's just quickly check before moving to the next step whether it is working all right or not. So let's just hit the preview button and add the URL of our website. We need to add HTTPS. HTTPS. Don't make the spelling errors like me, because you are smart, obviously, because you are watching my tutorials. Anyhow, once you have added the URL, and the debug window will open in a new tab. Let's just open both of the windows side by side so we can see what actually is happening on the website. So we can see that the debug window is connected and we can see some of the events firing on the left side. Let's just take 1 more minute to understand what the preview window is and how it actually works. So how Google Tag Manager works is that it creates a variable called DataLayer, and the DataLayer variable is where it keeps tracks of all of the events and different state of different variables and cookies. So a value of one cookie can be nothing when the container starts, and eventually it can have some value. Therefore, it is really necessary to understand how DataLayer works. And if you have no idea what DataLayer is and how Google Tag Manager works, you can go to the description of this video and watch a full detailed in-length course that we have created on Google Tag Manager. So now we can actually see that the Google Tag Manager is connected on the website, because it says connected and it is also saying connected. And we can go to the different pages on the website, such as shop page. And we can see that the shop page has also loaded the DataLayer event right here. We can go to the cart page, and we can also see that the Google Tag Manager is also working on the cart pages, and we can see that the custom events that we triggered, such as view cart event, it is also firing. But since we don't have any items, it is just empty. So the view item list event fired on the shop pages, but you can still see that we can still see that information on our data layer, because data layer preserves everything. And this is the power of debug window. It helps us track everything on our website. Great, now we have configured the data layer on our website, and we have also configured the Google Tag Manager on all the pages of the website. Now we need to make sure that our configuration tag, which is the most important tag for Google Analytics 4, is also added on our Google Tag Manager container before we can proceed on tracking all of the different events such as view item, add to cart, and things like that. So let's just go to Google Analytics. Once you search for Google Analytics 4, it will redirect you to this page, and we can click on Get Started Today, and this will take us to the landing page of Google Analytics 4, where we can create a new property for ourselves, and we are going to name it Demo WooCommerce, because that's a perfect name for anything. So once you click on Get on Started Today, and this will take you to this sign up page. So on this sign up page, let's just rename it to Demo WooCommerce and hit next. Let's also rename the property to the same thing. Rather than naming it that, I want to name the property the name of my website. So that way I always know what is the name of the website. So let's just hit next. Since this is a small business and this is an e-commerce one, and let's say we are selling in arts and entertainment, let's go with that. And we don't have to select anything here, but since this is an e-commerce website, I'm going to click on drive e-commerce sales. Let's accept everything, because we know whatever they say, we have to accept that anyways. Similar to how we saw the options on Google Tag Manager containers for web, Android, and iOS apps, we are going to select the web app. Unlike Google Tag Manager, where we have a separate section for server containers, we don't have the separate section for GA4 server properties, because the web container itself works for web as well as the server. So let's just enter the URL of the website right here and hit create stream. Stream is like a pipeline. It connects your website with the Google Analytics account. So stream is this pathway that is connected between both of the properties. And the only thing we are interested in is this measurement ID, because with the help of this measurement ID, similar to the Google Tag Manager container ID, we can do almost everything that we want. So now we have copied the measurement ID, and we have also created the property that we wanted. Now let's just go back to the Google Tag Manager container and configure the configuration tag so we can actually start tracking all of the data. So let's just go back to the Google Tag Manager container and click on the tags. Google Tag Manager container is divided into three main sections, where we have variables, triggers, and tag sections. Tags is basically the piece of JavaScript code that we want to fire on whenever something happens, and trigger is basically when we want the tag to fire, and variable just contains some information that we want to send with the tag. So let's create our first tag by clicking on new, and since this tag is going to be Google Analytics tag, we can go to the Google Analytics section and click on Google Tags. Previously, this was called Google Analytics 4's configuration tag, but recently Google has decided to disrupt the life of analytics people and make a new thing. So the Google ID is same as measurement ID. So let's just create a constant variable, because this variable is not going to change and we need this variable ID on multiple instances. So let's just create this one. Let's rename it to GA4 measurement ID. And let's hit save. Great, now we want this variable to fire on all the pages of the website. So let's just select all pages and hit save. I usually like to name it as GA4, and since this is a global tag, since this is the Google tag, I will write GA4 G tag, and this is a configuration tag. So let's hit save. Doing this should basically track all of the page view events on our website. So let's just hit preview one more time just to make sure everything is working all right on our website. So let's hit connect. And doing so, this will again open a debug window, which is connected through a temporary pipeline to our Shopify store. To our WooCommerce store. Sorry, I just said Shopify. I'm really bad at that. So the Google Tag Manager container is also considered a container, and GA4 is also kind of a container when we are working with debug windows. So you can see that we have two different Google tags. Once we have a Google Tag Manager container starting with the GTM ID, and then we have the Google tag starting with the G ID. And we can see that it has already sent a page view hit. And if you go back to the Google Analytics property, and you might find under the real view time section that some of the event will start coming after a few minutes. Since this is a really new property that we just created 1 minute ago, it will take some time to warm up. So to send, we can do a one little trick. We can send multiple page view events to the same property, and then hopefully it will start tracking the events really faster than usual. So right now, I think I have triggered 3 different page view events. I went to the home page, it has sent one page view event. Then I went to the cart page, it sent one more page view event. And then I went to one of the product pages and it has sent one page view event. So hopefully within, I can see that the page view has started coming in. So there are 3 pages that has been viewed, 3 pages event, and the user has engaged in the website 2 times. You can also view the same information from the debug view, and going to the debug view, you have 2 different options. You can go to the data display and click on debug window. As long as you have this preview window connected with your store and you're doing all of the events, you will see those events coming in through the debug window, because all the events that are coming from Google Tag Manager debug view, they all have a debug underscore view, I think. They also have a debug equal true identity attached with them. If we debug a little deeper, we can find this debug underscore mode property, which is set to 1 or true. And this is basically causing all of the events to show right here. So yeah, we have configured the GA4 property. Let's just publish the changes. So the changes that we have made are not in the draft mode, they are actually published. So let's rename it to GA4 config tags. Great. So let's recap what we have done so far. We have added a plugin for GTM for WP. We have configured it to track the DataLayer events for WooCommerce particularly. And we have added the DataLayer information, cart information, user details in the settings. Then we created a Google Tag Manager container, and we added the Google Tag Manager container in the WooCommerce using the GTM for WP plugin. And after that, we created a Google Analytics 4 property, which is an upgrade from the Universal Analytics property, which has been discontinued at the time of this recording. And then we added the Google Analytics 4 configuration tag on our Google Tag Manager container, and we tested everything. It is working fine. Now we are successfully tracking almost all of the configuration events and all of the basic events that comes built in with GA4. Now we need to make sure that we track the e-commerce events such as view item, add to cart, purchase event, begin checkout. However, they all require a lot more details to understand and how to actually use those events. So we are going to cover them one by one in coming up videos in this playlist. You can find a link to the playlist down below or somewhere right here. Subscribe. Bye bye.